Sri Lanka, a tropical paradise. Blessed with a unique range of animal species and a human population of 20 million, it's battling to coexist with the country's top predator, the leopard. There are casualties on both sides. Back in the 1920s, in the village of Punani, a leopard killed over 20 people. A hunter was summoned, but the leopard was elusive. To date, it's Sri Lanka's first known man-eater and an early sign of a simmering conflict.
The then minister wanted me to do research on 5 events that brought Sri Lanka's wildlife into the world limelight. The main one being the man-eating leopard of Punani. This was the first experience that the Sri Lankans had at that time with an animal of this nature.
Now, with human encroachment and overcrowded national parks, the leopard's domain is shrinking. Both sides are competing for the same space. A human-leopard conflict has begun. In the Indian epic Ramayana, Lord Rama was said to have built a bridge connecting India and Sri Lanka with the help of an ape army. Whether man-made or natural, using this former land connection, known as Adam's Bridge, animals crossed over to Sri Lanka from India. Leopards also made the crossing, ultimately becoming its top carnivore. Later, after the reign of Sinhalese kings, Sri Lanka came under colonial rule. With the following expansion, forests diminished. Virgin jungles were cut down to make way for vast plantations. It was during this era the leopard of Punani struck.
මට දැනගන්න ලැබුණා මේ පුනානි වසමේ වැඩ කරන වෙලාවේ පුනානි කොටියෙක් සම්බන්ධව මිනිසුන්ගෙන් අහවට කිව්වා ඒවකට මේ ප්‍රදේශේ පාලනය කරලා තියෙන්නේ ඒ රටේ මහත්තුරු හා කෝරළේ මහත්තුරු විසින් තමයි පාලනය කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මහා විශාල වනාන්තර ප්‍රදේශයකින් ගහන වෙච්ච නිසා වනසතුන්ගේ නොයෙක් කරදර හිංසා මේ ප්‍රදේශයේ තිබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ අවස්ථාවේ විශාල කොටියක් හිටලා තියෙනවා මේ පුනානි වනාන්තරේ. ඒ කොටියා ඒ ප්‍රදේශයේ මිනිසුන් විශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක් ගොදුරු බවට පත් කරගෙන තියෙනවා.
Its first victim was a small Moor boy overseeing a herd of cattle. A man-eater was on the loose.
I went to Punani and I spent some time there, but one of the main problems that I had in doing that research was very few people in that area knew about this leopard. Even at that time in '86, there was hardly a community living there. In the 1920s, it must have been real wild country. There was nobody really living there except the railway community and some of the jungle people. Some of them are doing Shena cultivations, some of them hunter-gatherers. But I think it changed very rapidly to an urban environment where today, or even in the 1950s, one could hardly imagine how a man-eating leopard operated there.
The Sri Lankan leopard is one of 9 recognized subspecies of leopard and is the country's apex predator. As the largest carnivore in the country, it determines the number of prey species such as spotted deer, wild boar and sambar. The local leopards are larger in comparison to their relatives elsewhere. They have supple, elongated bodies, and as characteristic to this species, their rusty yellow coat is peppered with black spots. Before colonial rule, these majestic cats roamed all over the island. But during British rule, major land reformations were made. Agriculture was encouraged, including the production of coffee. As the result, rail was introduced to transport coffee from the hill country to the port of Colombo. Later, coffee was replaced by tea plantations. Though there was little economic justification to lay a line to the east of the country, it was considered strategically worthy to lay a line to the harbour of Trincomalee and also to the provincial capital of Batticaloa, where Punani was located. By 1921, plans were made to extend the Batticaloa-Trincomalee railway line. The unwary construction workers were easy prey for the man-eater.
මේ සතාට බය නිසා පෙදේශේ ගම්මු හරියට පාරක් නැතුව කැලෑමැදින් පයින්වත් ගිහිල්ලා නැහැ. මේ සතාට බය නිසාම. දැන් පොළොන්නරුවේ ඉඳලා මඩකලපුවට මේ වැඩිපුර වනාන්තර මැදින් තමයි ගමන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ කියන්නේ ගමන් යන්න බය නිසා සමූහයක් වශයෙන් තමයි ගමන් බීම පව ඒ කාලේ ගිහිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ සතාට බය නිසා.
Fearing the man-eater, several workers agreed to take a safety precaution by riding together in the last cart, with the remaining individual keeping watch behind. The attempt was a failure. The villager on foot was swiftly dragged away into the forest by the leopard and killed, which begged the question, why was this leopard targeting humans?
There was hardly any reason as to why this leopard became a man-eater. And very interesting fact that this leopard, most of his kills were made on the 28th mile post on the Polonnaruwa road. Means that he was very familiar with people walking along that road and he got used to ambushing people on that stretch of road.
Today, the Polonnaruwa Punani road is relatively busy with traffic. Domestic herds of cattle are a common sight near roadside, just as it was back in the 1920s. For a period of 6 months in 1924, this stretch of road, especially the area between Punani and the Vakanani turnoff, was the hunting ground of the man-eater. The killings generally happened between the 28th and the 31st milestones. Sometimes months would pass without an attack, then suddenly the leopard would strike continuously. Its exact number of victims will never be known. Leopards are found in various habitats throughout the island. Unlike its continental brethren, the local leopards are less arboreal and have diurnal habits. Leopards are found mostly in the dry lowlands. Normally nocturnal, these clever cats prefer to hunt under the cover of darkness. Opportunistic hunters, they won't pass on easy prey. Similarly, the Punani leopard must have stalked its victims in the dead of night. Where an animal lives, or even its personality, signifies its adaptations to the problem of sustenance. The elephant, a herbivore, spends most of its time consuming around 300 pounds of food per day. The leopard, a carnivore, needs to work harder for its food, but doesn't eat as frequently. A good kill will satisfy the leopard for several days, sometimes even weeks, which explains the periodic absence of attacks by this man-eater. Humans, because they are relatively slow and less alert than its normal prey, were ideal fodder.
පොල්ලේපට්ටු ප්‍රදේශයේ තිබිලා තියෙන වනාන්තර ප්‍රදේශයක්. සුළු සංඛ්‍යාවක් තමයි මිනිස්සු ජීවත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මරක ප්‍රදේශයේ එවකට ඉඳලා තියෙන්නේ 2600 ගානක් තමයි සිංහල පවුල් පදිංචි ඉඳලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ වකවානුවේ තමයි මේ සිද්ධිය තියෙන්නේ.
Generally, leopard attacks on humans are considered rare. Most are reported from the Indian subcontinent. During the British Raj in India, animals were killed for sport. Tigers were largely hunted by colonialists and the elite. With no tigers or lions in Sri Lanka, leopards became a target of trophy hunters. Interestingly, former hunter and later conservationist Jim Corbett hunted the man-eating leopard of Rudraprayag in India around the same time the Punani leopard was active. Corbett further stated that when a tiger becomes a man-eater, it loses all fear of man, but a leopard, even after it's killed scores of humans, never loses its fear of man. So, how did the leopard of Punani become bold enough to attack people?
Some communities in that period, they didn't bury their dead or they didn't cremate their dead. They just went and made the last rites and kept the body in the jungle. And most probably this leopard had eaten and got a taste of human flesh. And also at the same time, when he first really killed the first human being, he must have thought to himself, well, this is easy prey.
In the wild, leopards are solitary hunters. They don't hunt in packs and will generally hunt in one of two ways. Either it will ambush prey, or, as seen here, it will stalk its victim. Similarly, instead of animals, the Punani leopard targeted humans. As the killings of Punani escalated, the government agent sent a telegram to renowned hunter Shelton Agar, denoting a bounty for a man-eating leopard.
When I was in the tea trade, I used to visit some of the estates, and some of the older planters knew Shelton. He was supposed to have been a perfect gentleman and also a very good shot, and he was a very good planter also at the same time.
Agar, confident of his hunting skills, accepted the challenge and travelled 175 miles before reaching his destination.
Once Shelton Agar started hunting him, the last victim was Manikam. But before that, nobody knew about the leopard. They knew that people were getting killed, but the local people didn't pay very much attention until some of the railway workers went missing. And then Altendorf, who was the railway inspector, he is the one who first got the leopard gazetted. Now, Altendorf, who was an educated man and a railway inspector, he identified the seriousness of it. You know, this must have been happening so many times. People were losing and there was nothing happening. But then he's the one who actually managed to get Shelton Agar to come.
Generally, humans are not the food of Sri Lankan leopards. In fact, the local leopards are blessed with a variety of prey. They face few challenges in the wild. Probably the only time leopards are vulnerable are when they are cubs. Growing up, cubs stick with their mother and siblings for more than a year. The leopard's only real threat is from humans. Leopards were killed with impunity until 1964. Now it's fully protected under the Fauna and Flora Protection Ordinance. Leopards are also targeted for their skin and other body parts, which are of great value in the black market. Today, most leopards in Sri Lanka are found within the boundaries of national parks. Located down south, Yala National Park has one of the highest leopard densities. Local farmers nearby, like Gamini, face a unique problem from leopards, who often venture outside the park in search of food. Gamini's livestock consists mostly of cattle. The younger calves are often targeted by leopards. Every evening, Gamini would gather the herd and bathe them. Afterwards, he would rely on the assistance of specially constructed steel pens for security. The calves are then driven into these enclosures and locked until dawn. The leopards are unable to break in, hence the calves are well secure. But before this method was implemented, they were easy prey.
අපට මේ ගාල් ලැබෙනට කලින් ගොඩාක් කරදර තිබුණා. සෑහෙන විදියට කරදර තිබුණා. කොටිය ඇවිල්ලා අපි බලාගෙන ඉද්දි අපේ පැටව බැඳපු ඇව අරගෙන කනවා. ගේට් එකෙන් අරගෙන කනවා. අපට එලව ගන්නත් අපටත් බයයි. අපි ගිනි කොට වලින් ගහනවා. සර් ඒ හාන්නෙත් නැහැ. අපි එළිය වැටෙනකන් නිදා ගන්න නැහැ. නිදාගත්තොත් අපේ මේ අපේ පොඩි කට්ටියත් එක්ක අපි මේ ජීවත් වෙලා ඉවරයි මේ වපුටට ටික මරනවා.
At night, Gamini would set up a fire near the pen. The resulting heat serves a dual purpose of warding off mosquitoes and leopards.
කෙක් මරලා අතාරින්නේ නැහැ. මරුවොත් ඌ මේ ගාලේ පැටව 8ක් ඉන්නවා 8ම මරනවා. ඒක දවසකට පැටව 5-6 දෙනා කාලා මරලා දාපු වෙලාවල් තියෙනවා. නැත්නම් අපි උදේට ඇවිල්ලා අපි අඬපු වෙලාවල් තියෙනවා මාත්‍යෝ. බලනකොට වපුටව ටික ගාලේ මරලා. අපිට ඊට පස්සේ උදේට අපිට ඊට පස්සේ ජීවත් වෙන්න විදියක් නැහැ. සෑහෙන්නම අපිට කරදරයක් වුණා. ගොඩාක් විදියට මේ ගාල් ලැබෙන්න කලින් දැන් අපි ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා නිදා ගන්නවා මේ ගාල් ලැබුණට පස්සේ.
The cattle pens are a win-win situation for both farmers and leopards. Since the calves are well protected, there have been few dead livestock. Hence, revenge killings of leopards significantly reduce in the area. But there's another lingering issue.
If you travel between Tissamaharam and Kataragama, say 15 years ago, there were a lot of jungles on the left-hand side going up the slope. There were hardly any shops or boutiques or eating houses or anything like that. But now, if you travel that same road, you will find that all that environment has been reduced and shops have come up, flower shops, eating houses, petrol sheds. It's a very commercial road today. And all the leopards that have been living in that surrounding area have now come as refuge to the Yala National Park. Coming into leopard conservation, I wonder how many leopards can the Yala National Park sustain?
The surge of leopards in Yala and urbanization may explain certain past attacks in the region. Of particular note is a leopard that targeted pilgrims back in the 1950s during the annual walk known as the Pada Yatra. The pilgrims start their journey up north in Jaffna, continuing down south to Kataragama. In order to reach Kataragama, the pilgrims have to cross both Kumana and Yala national parks.
There was another man-eater in Sri Lanka, somewhere near Yala. There is a pilgrim route that comes from Batiklo, that comes from Potuville, like that, all to come to the Kataragama shrine. It's called the Padayatra. Every year the killings kept on going along this pilgrim route. And this is only during 2 months of a year that this happened. But anyway, the camp moved from Pottana to Udupottana and then the killing stopped. And nothing was heard of that leopard after that.
But the damage done by this man-eater was nowhere near the atrocity committed by the Punani leopard, who kept eluding Agar constantly.
මිනිස්සු 20 ගානකට වැඩිය මේ සතා විසින් සපා කාලා තියෙනවා. ගොදුරු බවට පත් කරන් තියෙනවා. ඒක නිසා තමයි මේ ඒවකට හිටපේ පාලකතුමා මේ විදියට මේ සතා මරලා දාන්න අවශ්‍ය අරගෙන මේ සතා විදියට මරලා තියෙනවා.
Agar tirelessly scouted the road up and down, hoping to catch a glimpse of the killer leopard. After several unsuccessful attempts, he hit gold, finding not one but several leopards on the road. On impulse, he opened fire, killing both leopards on different turns. But the true man-eater was elsewhere.
It is very wrong, right, the hunting method, but then Shelton Agar himself says that he had never hunted leopards before, and that the stories that he had heard about the killing of this leopard, he himself says, I couldn't believe that one animal was responsible for such a devastation. When he saw this group, he obviously surmised these leopards also would have been responsible for some of the killings, and that's what he did that. But then subsequently he deeply regretted what he had done.
Agar tried various methods to lure the man-eater, one of which included the use of live bait. A goat was tied up near the rotting body of the latest victim, but the goat never bleated out of fright, and the elusive leopard never showed up.
When Sheldon Agar took up to hunting this leopard, the leopard didn't kill any further human beings. Once Sheldon Agar started hunting him, and he went up and down the road. Ultimately, he thought this was a dead duck, and he went back to the estate. And then a few months later, that he got a letter from Altendorf asking him to come. That was the death of Manikam, the last victim.
Manikam, the village postman, was out delivering mail, but stubbornly used the road hunted by the man-eater when he was told not to. Around the 28th milepost, he paid the ultimate price. The man-eater struck again, but this would be its last kill.
When you go and live with these jungle-dwelling folk, they have a completely different mentality from people coming from our background. But the jungle-dwelling folk are people who take a lot of things for granted. You know, if they find 3 people going out to the jungle and one come back and say, we don't know what happened to the other guy, he went away and he never came back, sort of business. For them it was something second nature.
This tolerant attitude can be attributed to Sri Lanka's benevolent faith. Most belief espouse compassion to all beings, including the country's major religion, Buddhism. The landscape is dotted with numerous Buddhist shrines, some of which are centuries old. As with all deeply religious cultures, strong contradictions emerge. For instance, how can a man-eating leopard be tolerated? Nowadays, troublesome leopards are captured and translocated. If captured when young, like this orphan leopard cub, the chances of it being released into the wild and surviving are slim. Instead, it will get used to humans, become a larger version of a domestic cat. But if caught, an adult man-eating leopard will never be free again. It will be incarcerated for life. This leopard, named as Namali, attacked and killed a village woman back in 2014. It was captured and brought to the zoo by wildlife officials. During the process, the leopard lost its front canines.
දැනට දිවියන් 7 දෙනෙක් අපි මහදන ප්‍රදර්ශන සඳහා යොමු කර සිටිනවා. ඒ අතර විශේෂිත සතෙක් තමයි අපට මේ නාමලි කියන දිවියා. ස්වභාවික චර්යා රටා තුල එයා ගොඩ සැර සතෙක් හැටියට තමයි අපි ළඟට ආවේ.
Its aggressiveness and impairment are red flags and present a dilemma. Can this leopard be released back into the wild? What will happen if a confirmed man-killer is set loose? The leopard is also blind in one eye, further diminishing its hunting prowess.
ඒ කියන්නේ දැන්ට අවුරුදු 4කට කලින් අප සත්තු උද්‍යාන තුලදී මේ නාමලි කියන දිවියා සතෙක් බිහි කරා. එයා ගෑනු සතෙක්. අපි එයත් රේණු කියලා තමයි අපි නම් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ සතත් මේ වෙන විට අපි මහජන ප්‍රදර්ශන සඳහා යොමු කර තියෙන සතා අම්මයි පැටියයි දෙන්නම මේ වෙන විට මහජන ප්‍රදර්ශන සිදු කරනවා. මේ නාමලි කියන දිවියා අපි දැන් මේ සාර්ථකව මහජන ප්‍රදර්ශන සිදු කරන අතරතුර දැන් මේ දිවියා අපි වැඩ කරන අපි එතකොට අපේ සත්ත්ව බාරකරුවන් නරඹන්නන් හා මේ දිවියා ඍජුවම සම්බන්ධ වෙනවා.
Releasing this leopard now will be dangerous. It will spend its lifetime in this zoo. Unfortunately, back in the 1920s, Agar only had one way to stop the man-eater. After Agar returned to Punani, he ordered a track to be cut from the 28th milepost to the location of Manikam's body in the jungle. He calculated that the distance back to Punani was 12 miles. When Agar and his helpers discovered Manikam's body, it was partially eaten by the leopard. Immediately, he ordered a platform to be built above the ground, overlooking the corpse.
He managed to identify the carcass, and the carcass was so fresh that he managed to stay over the carcass. The previous ones, they never found the carcass, or the carcass was so badly ravaged that there was nothing for him to sit and wait.
With night falling fast, the group decided to head back to Punani. Suddenly, the leopard returned. Agar fired, but the elusive cat escaped again. What was special about the Punani man-eater? Based on hearsay, one would assume it was a large leopard. Some even believed it was a ghost. But the reality was different.
It had been a fairly exceptionally small leopard. There were no salient features to identify why he became a man-eater. His teeth were in very good condition. His body was in very good condition. Perhaps, according to my experience also, most probably, he just acquired a taste for human flesh.
In his gripping account of the man-eater, Agar claimed that the body of the killer leopard was not large, yet showed abnormal development in its feet pads, neck muscles, and head. It also had large canine teeth. It was evident that Agar was facing a formidable foe. After Agar returned to Punani for the night, the leopard did something exceptionally bold. It returned to the site of Manikam's body. When Agar and his group returned to the jungle, the body was gone. But following the drag marks, they managed to find the corpse again. Agar built another platform near the new location of the latest victim. He then sent his helpers back to get provisions and spent an agonizing day alone in the jungle. Later, he vividly described the experience. A feeling of loneliness overcame me. I once again began to calculate time. There was only one way for the leopard to gain his kill, and that was to pass my rifle. He would have to do for me first. But Agar waited and waited. The leopard never showed up. After Agar's helpers returned to the location, he settled down on the platform with his driver and sent the others back. It began to rain towards the evening. Around 3 p.m., as Agar was sipping his tea, he casually glanced over his shoulder and was shocked to see the man-eater staring up at him. The dreaded leopard was sitting on its haunches, licking its paws like a cat. Agar quickly took aim. The leopard was yards away from the body, but it kept looking up at him. He opened fire, getting the leopard with a neck shot, and finally ending its reign of terror on the 18th of August, 1924.
After he shot the man-eating leopard, he thought of the country and gave the skin to the museum, where it is still mounted and lying.
Times have changed since colonial times. New problems have risen. With a land area of just 650,000 square kilometers, Sri Lanka has over 20 million people. Even though the country has over 25 national parks, some of them are overcrowded by visitors. The resulting congestion greatly stresses the animals. Due to their charismatic and shy nature, leopards are the star attraction in these parks. Tourists and locals alike eagerly attempt to catch a glimpse of this top cat. But with limited prey and dwindling space, the felines seek territories outside the park, venturing into human habitations. Because of this location shift, they rely on fringe prey like domestic cattle. Though cattle pens reduce the problem, its upkeep is a challenge for poor farmers.
දැන් අපේ මේ ගාල් දිරාපත් වෙලා මේවා කැඩිලා මේ වගේන් දැන්ට අපි මේ විය හද ඉන්නේ. අපිට මේ ගාලක් හදන්න යනවා රුපියල් 75000ක් විතර අපිට ඒ දුන්න ආයතනෙන් කිව්වා 75000ක් විතර වෙනවයි කියලා. ඉතින් මේ ගාලක් ඇඳක් හදාගන්න අපිට දැනට වච්කමක් මදි ඇත්තෙම. ඉතින් අපේ දරු පවුල් එක අපිට ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕන හින්දා අපි මේ රැකියාව තමයි අපි දාන්නේ.
The options for local farmers are limited. Their skills are insufficient for other trades, and they cannot afford to relocate either.
මම අන්දරගස්සායි පදිංචි අපි එහෙ ඉඳලා හරක් ගෙනල්ලා මෙහෙ තමයි වාඩි ගහගෙන ඒ දවස්වල පදිංචි වෙලා ගිනිමෙල ගහගෙන ගාල් රැක්කේ. හැන්දෑවට වසු ගාල් කරලා ගිහිල්ලා උදේට ඇවිල්ලා කිරිදවාගෙන ආපහු හවසට ඇවිල්ලා හරක් එක්ක ආවරලා ආපහු පැටව ගාල් කරලා අපි ඒ විදිහට තමයි හැමදාම මේක කරන්නේ. ඉතින් අපිට එච්චර ගාණක් නැහැ අපි කිරි ලීටර 8ක් වගේ දවන්නේ 8ක් දවලා රුපියල් 800ක් වගේ ගන්නෙ. ඒකෙන් තමයි පොඩි කට්ටිය ගෙදර සීලමු දේ ඉගෙන ගන්න සීලමු දේට ඒ ටික තමයි වීදම් කරන්නේ.
Experts believe that due to poaching, there could be a lack of prey inside the parks. This could be another valid reason why the leopards target livestock.
The first thing that we have to consider is the prey base. Is there enough prey for all the leopards that have come in from outside? Number two is that conflict among two big males. They may be a little more tolerant in Sri Lanka than in Africa and India because the country is so small and the environment is small, but nevertheless there will be still a conflict. And I don't know, say the future for leopard in Yala for instance, I feel very sad about it.
But now farmers are well aware of a leopard's eating habits.
ඌ ඒ අල්ල ගත්තට පස්සේ නම් ඒ ගොදුර අතාරින්නේ නැහැ. ඌ මරලම තමයි කොටියා ඒ ගොදුර අතාරින්නේ. ඒ නැතුව අතාරින්න මරලා ගිහිල්ලා ටිකක් එහාට ගිහිල්ලා බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා. ඒ සතා කන්නේ පෙනහැලි ඒ ටික පමණයි කන්නේ. අනිත් මේ ඔක්කොම කොටස කන්නේ නැහැ. අනිත් ඒවා කන්නේ වෙන සතුන්. ඉතින් බුල්ලෝ ඌරෝ කනවා.
A deficient prey base, old age and injury are considered reasons as to why leopards become man-eaters, though this is not always the case. The exact origin of a man-eating leopard is a mystery. Yet the real danger is not from leopards, but for the leopard. In rural areas, land is constantly cleared for agriculture. Coupled with urbanization, the leopard is gradually losing its homeland. Since territory and prey are in high competition, leopards target livestock, bringing them into direct conflict with humans. Most problematic leopards are now in the zoo. They rely on sustenance from humans and are unable to hunt and fend for themselves in the wild, where they will also face competition from other leopards. Leopards that have attacked humans, like Namali, present another problem. Caretakers are well aware of the consequences if it were to be released.
නැවත වතාවක් මේ දිවියා කැලේකට නිදහස් කරොත් මගේ පුජ්‍යලික අදහසක් අපේ අදහසක් වෙන්නේ මේ දිවියා නැවතත් මිනිස්සුන්ට හුරු වෙලා මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ක්‍රියාකාරකම් දැකලා මිනිස්සුන්ගේ කටහඬට හුරු වෙලා ඒ නිසා නැවත මේ දිවියා ජනතාව වෙසෙන ඒ කියන්නේ මහ ජනතාව වෙසෙන ජනාවාස වාසභූමි කරා පෙමිනීමේ වැඩි සම්බන්ධතාවයක් තියෙනවා කියලා මගේ අදහසක් වශයෙන් ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න පුළුවන්.
Sadly, Namali's offspring face a similar fate. Her laid-back behavior is a stark contrast to her mother's aggressive nature. She relies on food from humans too, hence she is unable to hunt. Born and bred in a zoo, she lacks instincts and skills to survive in the wild. Just like her mother, she too will spend her lifetime in this zoo. This is Kumana National Park, located down south near Yala. Sri Lanka has been a wildlife tracker here for 7 years. On April the 18th, 2019, he witnessed an unprecedented tragedy.
චන්ද්‍ර මහත්තයා ඇවිල්ලා කිව්වා මේ ඇතුලේ කොටියක් ගහලා එක්කෙනෙක්ට පුළුවන් තරම් ඉක්මනින් අපි යන්න ඕන කියලා. අපි 4 දෙනා එන්න ලෑස්ති වුණා. එන්න වාහනයක් තිබුණේ. ඊට පස්සේ එතනම වැඩක කියන්නේ සපාරි කරන මේ චමීර මල්ලි ඇවිල්ලා කිව්වා මං එන්නම් යන් අපි කියලා. මෙතන ඇවිල්ලා අපි බැස්සාම කිව්වා මෙහෙට මෙතන මේ වැලිගොඩේ ඉඳගෙන හිටියා. අතන අර කොර කහ පඳුරට හේතු වෙලා හිටපු එක්කන මේ පාර දිගේ අරගෙන කොටියා ගියා කියලා.
The worker was doing road construction and was on his lunch break when the leopard attacked. The 48-year-old man was killed instantly. The leopard had singled him out. The attack was no mistake.
ඊට පස්සේ අපි ඔක්කොමත් එක්ක කැලේ ඇතුළට ගියා. කෙනෙක් ඉස්සරහට ගිහිල්ලා කිව්වා අර පළු ගහට පොඩ්ඩක් මෙහා පැත්තේ තියෙනවා මේ ලොකු හුඹහක්. එතන මේ බොඩි එක තියෙනවා කියලා. එතැන්ට ගියාට පස්සේ කොටිය කාලා තිබුණා මේ මනුස්සයාගේ භාගයක්ම. කොටිය පේන්නේ හිටියේ නෑ එතන. මමත් මේ චමීරත් එතන ඉතිරි වුණා. අනිත් කට්ටිය එළියට එන්න ආවා කැලින් එළියට ගන්න. මම ඉස්සරහට ගිහිල්ලා නැවිලා මලකඳ තිබිච්ච මේ තුවාල ටික බල බල හිටියේ. චමීර පිටුපස්සෙන් ඉඳන් මේ ෆොටෝ දෙකක් අරගත්තා. තුන්වෙනි ෆොටෝ එක ගන්න මම පිටුපස්සට දාලා චමීර ආයෙ ඉස්සරහට ආවා මේ අයියේ පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්න කියලා. එතකොට මේකවර ඉස්සරහ තිබිච්ච මීටර 6කට විතර එහා පැත්තෙන් කොරකහ පඳුරක් අස්සෙන් කොටිය නැගිටිනවා දැක්ක ගමන් මේ මං කෑ ගැව්වා මේ කොටියා කියලා. ඒත් එක්කම චමීර ගෑඟට පැන්න කොටිය.
බිල්ලටම තමයි ආවේ. බිල්ල මෙතන ලෙව කෑවා. මට එකපාරම හිතා ගන්න බැරුණා එකපාරම. මම දැන් මෙහෙම වැටිලා හිටියේ. මට ආස විතරයි පේන්නේ. මේ කොටියම ගෑඟට වැතුරුණා කියන්නේ ඉඳගත්තා වගේ. මෙතන අත් දෙක තියලා කොටියාගේ අත් දෙක පහුරු තියලා තියාගෙන මේ ටික වෙලාවක් හිටියා තප්පර 5ක් විතර කට තියාගෙන. මට අග්ගල කොටියව ඉස්සුවා මෙහෙම. ඒ කොටිය ඇඟ උඩ ඉන්න නිසා මම මෙහෙම ඉස්සුවා මෙහෙම. උස්සනවත් එක්කම කොටිය තව පහුර එක අද කරලා තියාගත්තා.
චමීර වැටිලා ඉද්දි කොටිය කකුල් දෙකෙන් සාමාන්‍ය අර සතෙක්ට ගහන විදිහට මේ පහුරු ගහනවා. හැබැයි පහුරු ගහන ඒවා මේ චමීරට වදින්නේ ඒවා වැදුනේ පොළවට දූවිලි පාර යනවා. කොටිය දෙපැත්ත ගැහුවේ නෑ අල්ලගෙන. කියන්නේ කොටිය චමීර පොළවට තද කරගෙන එහා පැත්තෙන් මම හිටියා. දැන් මං ඉන්න කොටියට පේනවා හොඳට. මට ගොරවනවා මේ චමීර අල්ලගෙන. ඒ කියන්නේ මම ඉන්න එකත් කොටියට පේනවා. ඒත් එක්කම තමයි මේ පිටිපස්සෙන් ඇවිල්ලා වෙඩි තිබුණේ.
එතකොට වෙඩි සද්දයක් වගේ ආවා. මට ටක් ගාලා නැගිට්ටා. නැගිටිනකොට මම මෙතන උගුරු අල්ලාගෙන තමයි මම නැගිට්ටේ. නැගිටලා මම වටපිට බැලුවේ නෑ. කෙලින්ම වාහනේ තිබිච්ච පැත්තට මම ආවා.
චමීර මෙතනට අරන් එනකොට චමීරට කතා කරන්න බෑ නැගිට්ටා. ඊට පස්සේ එහෙම චමීරවත් අරගෙන කට්ටිය ඔක්කොම ගියා.
Generally, leopards avoid humans at all costs. There is even an ancient saying in Sri Lanka that a leopard will get sick for 7 days if it encounters a human at close range. There is also a misconception that all leopards are dangerous, creating a fear psychosis among villagers. Educating them about leopards and their behavior is vital for its future conservation.
Basically, I think the future of conservation anywhere in the world is getting the people educated as to the environment that they are living in. First of all, we have to get a program going to identify, I think, some of the leopards especially in the hill country area like Norelia and all those areas. Down south and maybe in the Vilpattu regions and all that, it's not too bad at the moment, but the main conflict today is in the hill country.
Apart from the lowlands, the hill country is also starting to see a surge in human-leopard conflict. Located in the central mountainous region of the country, these lands were the former homes of British colonials. Even though Sri Lanka obtained independence in 1948, vestiges of British influence are seen in the form of lucrative tea plantations, garnering much national income. Currently, Sri Lanka is one of the world's leading exporters of tea. Unfortunately, this region has the highest number of reported leopard attacks. In 2014, a leopard attacked and killed a village woman in this region.
எங்கள் அம்மா 2014 சாகும்போது நான் 2ஆப்பு படித்தேன். இப்போ நான் 7ஆப்பு படிக்கிறேன். அன்னைக்கு லீவு நாள் எங்கள் அம்மா மாடு அவுத்துட்ட கைக்கு மாடு காட்டுக்கு போன கைக்கு பகல் டைமில் எங்கள் அம்மா மாடு கொண்டு வர போனாங்க. அதுக்கு பிறகு சொனங்கிடுச்சு. அதுக்கு பிறகு எல்லாம் வந்து சொன்னாங்க இப்போ எங்கள் அம்மாவை புலி கடிச்சிருச்சுன்னு. அதுக்கு பிற்பாடு நாங்கள் எங்கள் அப்பாவுக்கு கால் பண்ணி சொன்னோம். நான் ஸ்கூல் போகும்போது கூட யாரையாவது கூட்டிக்கிட்டு போகிறதா இருக்குது. ஆடு மாடு அதெல்லாம் வைக்க இயலாது. இப்படி சிறுத்தை வந்து கொண்டு போயிடுது. எனக்கு நடந்த மயக்க எங்கள் அம்மாவை நான் இழந்த மயக்க வேறு யாருக்கும் இந்த மயக்க நடக்கக்கூடாது.
The leopard that killed the woman in question was none other than Namali. Before the Wildlife Department officials arrived to translocate Namali, angry villagers beat her so badly that she lost her canine teeth.
During recent times, I was really saddened to see that even some schoolgirls and schoolboys have been attacked in the Norelia area. And that is very frankly, I think, because of the encroachment into the leopard territory. And also at the same time, I think the environment that leopards have been living in, especially in the hill country, has been reduced. And the leopards are getting urbanized, which is happening in India also, outside the national parks. And I think unless something very drastic is done, this is going to be a very serious problem in the future.
Back in the day, the highlands had a large percentage of forest cover. Now, with the presence of tea plantations, illegal crop cultivation, and invasive plants like guinea grass have caused small animals to disappear. Their absence has forced leopards to rely on different prey, and that's where dogs come in. To protect their crops, farmers use dogs to guard their premises. With a depleted natural prey base, leopards tend to attack these dogs. Since farmers are well aware that leopards consume its kill throughout several days, they poison the carcass of the dog, causing fatal results. As a result, the collective number of leopards has started to decline.
මිනිස්සු ගොඩක් බය වෙලා ඉන්නේ මේ කොටියාගේ ප්‍රශ්න නිසා. ඒතෝ දැන් මේ ගිය සතියේත් කොටියෙක් කෙවිලා මේ ගෙවල් ගාන තියෙන බල්ලාව අරන් ගිලා තියෙන්නේ. මිනිස්සු රේටවත් මේ හොස්පිටල් එකට යන්නවත් පයින් යන්නවත් රේ ගමනක් යන්න ගොඩක් බය වෙලා ඉන්නේ මේ කොටියාගේ ප්‍රශ්න නිසා. පාරේ මැද ඉන්නවා වාහනයට යන්න දෙන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඒ වගේ මේ බාල්කේපල් ජීවත් වෙන මිනිස්සු කොටියාගේ ප්‍රශ්නට ගොඩක් මුණ දීලා තියෙනවා. ගමේ මිනිස්සු තේවතෝලේ තමයි වැඩ කරලා තේ කරලා තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. තේ අස්සෙත් ඉඳලා මේ කොටෙක් පනිනවා. ඒ නිසා මේ දිව්‍යෙක් ප්‍රශ්නයට මේ විසඳුමක් කරලා දෙන්න කියලා තමයි අපි ඉල්ලීමක් කරන්නේ.
To guard their crops, farmers use snares to keep off marauding animals. Often leopards get caught in these traps and are unable to escape. Officials would then have to tranquilize the leopard. Afterwards, they would cut it loose from the snare. Finally, with the help of villagers, the leopard would be translocated. At times, snares can be fatal to a leopard. This animal got entangled. When villagers discovered it hanging from a tree, the leopard was already dead. With a population of over 20 million invading and degrading the leopard's natural habitat, a hungry leopard is forced to find food elsewhere. Naturally, they have no option but to venture into human habitations in search of prey, resulting in fatal clashes with humans. Hence, man-eating leopards may very well be a man-made phenomenon. Punani is a busy but peaceful town now. Leopards are almost non-existent here. The terror of the man-eater is a distant memory. Namali still continues the only trade he knows, though there is still a chance a leopard might attack his livestock. Over 10 years old, Namali's days may very well be numbered in the zoo. While leopards in the wild remain protected, their longevity depends on human activity. Hopefully, the human-leopard conflict will encourage people to find solutions and lead to human-leopard coexistence.